To the Good Morning Education Show. My name is Rotimi Eitayo, and it's such a lovely morning to be here once again. And we're streaming from Lagos, Nigeria, to West Africa, to Africa, to the entire world. It's the Good Morning Education Show, and you're welcome to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please do let us know where you're streaming from. Tell us your name, tell us your location, and of course, please feel free to join us in the conversation in the show today. And we love to say that it's always a great morning on the show, and we also acknowledge the power of the internet. So this morning, as I say good morning to you, I also say good morning to the internet. And we believe that we're going to have a smooth session today. And then, of course, without wasting, we normally do give opportunity for comments, contributions, and questions on the subject matter of the day. So do not hesitate to ask your questions. Please feel free to share your thoughts on the subject matter. And of course, our analysts will be on ground to share their views and dimensions on the topic that we have on for the conversation of the day. And they will be able to take up your questions. We always have great time on the show. And of course, today will not be an exception. Ladies and gentlemen, please do let us know if this is your first time on the show, as we have a tradition where we recognize first timers and we share with them what we call the bell of blessing. The bell of blessing is for those who've not joined us in a long time or those who are joining us for the first time. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are joining the Good Morning Education Show for the first time, please feel free to tell us and we will ring the bell of blessing to you. Also, on the show, while we welcome our analysts on board, we also have opportunity to discuss about news within education and around the world of education. And this gives us an opportunity to get you informed, to get you updated about the world of education and the things that happening within the world of education. And today will not be an exception because we will spend time to look at the headlines. And of course, please note that our views are just our views, as it were, because these are thoughts that we have as professionals or as stakeholders within the sphere. And once we do that, and then we go straight to the conversation. This week, interestingly, has been addressing some fundamental areas. Started on Monday, and our conversation on Monday led us to talking about what parents need to know, knowing what to know for parents, and then we are moving over today to knowing what to do. I believe that there's a big correlation between knowing what to know, which is knowledge, and of course, knowing what to do, which is much more than knowledge. However, it's more of action. Um, and I said earlier that we're going to come back to that once we are able to have a great analysis, analysis on the news. So right now we are going to start with news on the headline that I have here, and it says Unilag releases cutoff mark. OAU pursue me results out. Of course, Unilag has been in the news lately, and this time around, Unilag is coming out with their cutoff mark for those seeking admissions into the university. And of course, OAU cutoff mark is also out. So if you are affected or if you know someone who is seeking admission or enrollment into the university, please give them a heads up that the cutoff mark for entry is out. And really, this just takes us back to memory lane many years ago. Cutoff mark actually is a big deal to every student seeking admission because really, it tells you how you can know your fate on what to expect, as it were. So we're going to move on from that and then move to another headline that is catching our attention, which is more of cultism. The Punch newspaper, we have cultism, big problem in varsities, says ex-deputy governor. Of course, we said something about that at the beginning of the week on the show. Um, we had a particular state, canceling, I think, exam celebration because of the fear of cultism. Good morning, Safety Chick. How are you today?
Good morning, sir. I'm very well, thank you.
Fantastic. Because uh, we're having a quick review on the headlines and such a lovely one for you to step in at this point in time. All right. So remember at the beginning of the week, we had conversations around the issue of a state government stopping, I think, celebration of exams or something like that, and completion of exams because of a fear of cultist attack or something like that. Can you remember?
Yes, yes, I do, sir.
Oh, fantastic. So now there's a news headline um, saying from Punch newspaper that um, an ex-governor was actually lamenting on the rise or at the effect of cultism in schools. Really, that it's quite alarming. That it's a big problem in the universities. What's your take on that?
Mm. Oh well, he's not far from the truth. It's the situation that we have on ground. And I remember that some days ago, I think one of the questions he had asked me on that topic was, is it possible? Does it look feasible that cultism is going to eventually go down in our schools? And the truth is, for that to even happen, is going to again need a coordinated effort from the home to the young people also having stronger values and knowing that even if they go to school and these people try to influence them to join, they are able to use wisdom to maneuver it, and that those who are even cultists, they would just, should I say, grow out of it, because that's what I find. I find that most cultists, by the time they leave the university, they wean themselves off cultist activity. So if that can be done when they leave school, I think that is also something that we should begin to work towards, that can be done while they're also in the school system. Because if we keep reducing the number of cultists in schools, if we keep if it's not more attractive to be a cultist, if the numbers are dwindling, what happens is, yeah, we won't keep on having replacements. We won't keep on having more recruitment and replacement of old ones who have left the school system, and that would also work towards reducing it. So, yeah, those are my thoughts.
Well, the interesting thing is that in the university system, cult association actually are registered. Are you
Mm.
there?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
So they're actually registered. So and I discovered this so many years ago that some of these people actually have it as a proper registered association. It's just
Yeah.
it's just unfortunate that um, apart from the cloak of formalizing it as an association, um, their their footprint and impact, as it were, is what is causing a lot of headache because they are registered bodies. They are registered bodies. Even some other associations that might not necessarily go down with those values, but they are also registered. We have so many funny associations that schools sign up for or allow registration, and they actually exist across chapters. In fact, some of them have zonal representatives across the country. Titi, good morning. Rhoda, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. Good morning, everyone. Morning, Rhoda.
Titi, that's loud. Good morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good
Morning.
morning and
Morning.
welcome, Mrs.
Good
Adeosi and
morning,
Chike.
Good
safety
morning,
chick.
Safety.
Good
I'll
morning,
do. I'm
Rotimi.
going
Good
to
morning.
I'm going to do an Easter good morning challenge. Anyone that can beat Titi's good morning, I'll probably give them a cash award, maybe fifty
I'm
thousand
telling
naira.
you.
50,000
Say that
naira
again.
for sure. Anyone that can
Say
beat
that
Titi's good
again.
morning. And Anna, hello.
It's very unique.
Yeah, so we're talking about one of the headlines today from the Punch newspaper. And a deputy governor was lamenting that autism really has been a major crisis in our universities. And so, Safety Chick and I were just saying that, earlier in the week, we mentioned something about the state government trying to stop celebration of final exams because of the fear of an attack from cultists. So that's what we're talking about when you guys logged on to the show. Any any additions? Any
No additions from my end, unless Rhoda wants to add on.
Honestly, I think both of you have uh, talked on it, so no additions. The truth is that these things have been happening for a while, even from our time and before our time, and it's sad that we're still trying to deal with it. I thought that technology had its place in helping to curb a lot of cultist activities, but here, well, there's a lot to do there.
okay. Uh, let's move on to another headline. Loud Tech bans final year sign out celebration. It's like there's a lot of banning now in the society. I
I
mean,
think safety concerns. I mean, it's all about safety. And at a time where there's quite a number of safety issues and scares. This is in the world of Ugochi. This is Ugochi's thing. So Ugochi will speak on it. Um, it's all about safety. I think safety over anything. Safety over celebrations. That's for me. So if there are genuine concerns about the safety of students, and definitely we should find a safe way to celebrate. And
Funny
I
enough,
guess that's what Ugochi would say. Yeah,
that's
Titi.
not why they're banning it. He alleged that the program promotes gross immorality and indiscipline. That's why they're banning it.
Oh, I thought you were referencing the ones that we talked about before. Gross what?
That's why they
Gross immorality and what?
yes, and
Indiscipline?
indiscipline. Yes,
That's
yes.
ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous statement I have heard in 2 decades. In what world?
Rhoda,
It's in what does that even mean? I'm sorry, what does that mean? What does gross immorality? It's true. We should ask questions. What does gross immorality mean and look like? What does indiscipline mean and look like? And once you know what those two things mean and look like, it's just not make vague statements to people, like to everybody listening. We're not all. I don't know what to say, but what does that mean? If you want
I,
a code of conduct, you declare a code of conduct, and people will that. And you don't stop people for celebration. It is 100% of the people's experiencing gross misconduct or exhibiting gross immorality. What does this mean? And anyway, it's not me, not this morning.
and also in line with this cult discussion, to also not because there might have been a planned violent cult activity under disguise of celebration. Anyway, I think Rhoda has spoken our mind in terms of when people gather together, is there's going to be drink. Of course, there'll be a bit of misbehaving, but I don't think it's enough to just use one brush and then label everything. It's then to provide guidelines that would then minimize some of those things happening. Anyway, yeah, and let's go to the next headline.
Please, the headline of interest to me is the
I'm telling you, I've been
teachers.
waiting for Rotimi to get to that headline. Oh. Let's not
I'm
use all the
telling
time
you,
to talk about
I
you know,
know.
Rotimi, the one that you and I
Teachers
were even still
were
talking
given
about it
12 cards,
yesterday.
merit awards for teachers, Lagos State teachers, 12 cards. Is that the one, Titi? Is that the one you want to talk
That's
about?
the one. That
Oh my
honestly.
God, Titi, take it away, please.
Okay. Lagos State rewards outstanding teachers with 12 cars. So the Lagos State, yes, on Tuesday rewarded 12 outstanding public school teachers and administrators with 12 cars. You understand? Each of them were presented with a car, a tablet, a plate, and other gifts. Okay, so that is it. Honestly, this is awesome. I know that I have some concerns as whether how they selected these teachers was it an open and transparent process. That's some of it. So let it not be that it was a. But having said that, I think it's really a laudable thing. I think this is awesome. We've been talking about this. There are already some people, place like Medal Hall that does, awards to teachers, that something that is tangible. I think this is the next one, and I really want to applaud Lagos State and the Ministry of Education in Lagos State for this awesome, awesome initiative. Well done, and may it continue, be passed on from one government to the other. Let it not stop with any government. I think this is awesome. Rhoda, over to you and safety check.
Yeah, Titi, I'm so excited about this one, and in particular because there's so many things that piecing together to get this done. Like every World Teachers Day, we talk about there's a theme that's celebrated, and usually what has characterized the themes over the course of maybe since 2015 till now is always about the value and the quality of the teachers, value from the perspective of the profession itself, and then quality from perspective of the competencies that teachers should have. And the important thing here is that it's a mindset shift that I can be celebrated and offered something of value for giving value. That's something that that the message carries. And the truth is that if you really want to do things like this, because you will definitely find teachers who represent people of value in the classrooms, you would find the partnerships to do it. So it's a GAC set of cards, and then these companies are bound and are willing to commit their CSRs to projects like this. And that's when we talk about education meeting industry and having those necessary partnerships that allow a lot more to be given. It was 12, it could have been 50. And only when you talked about the criteria for merit, for this merit, I do know that I know a cohort of people were pulled from the private sector actually to look through the criteria and select. And so I can tell you categorically that the people that were selected definitely did have some stories attached to them, personal, independently reviewed. And you have the likes of Yinka Ogunde, Mrs. Koike of Green Springs, uh, I think even the Meadow Hall woman and a couple of other very unknown process-driven women that led the criteria and the selection process, the criteria selection and the selection
Rhoda, I
final
thought you
selection
wanted
process.
to say selected, anointed. I
But
was like, Rhoda,
it's
what?
it's many things coming together for me in one, and I'm happy about this example because it's an example of what can be done. And part of what we're also doing behind the scenes is just trying to also support this kind of project by coming up with teacher champions and then things that we're going to do to continue to ensure that these people who are doing great work, giving great value and very selfless service in our schools, regardless of how difficult it is. One downside to it is something that we've also all talked about in different ways. So if you look at the 12 people, they're all young, right? And it is not to say that it's only is the those that merit it that got it. but those that merited it got. I mean, those that got it, they did merit it. But it also to say that there are people who merit this award that didn't get it just because they didn't apply, and that's also a skills gap, because there's women who are in their 50s and have been teaching for 30 years or 20 years who just didn't apply because they're unable to. And so that's something that we need to try to look into and say how can we get more
Or
of
they
our
were not
seasoned
even
teachers, old
aware.
teachers. No, they were aware because what we did some sensitization to make sure that they knew,
Hmm.
they all knew about it. There
You'll
was
be
a
amazed that some of them will still not hear. Maybe those that are social media wary, or
No,
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 it was
no,
the
no.
sensitization
But
No,
you
wasn't
know,
no,
social
no,
media
Rhoda
led.
is
It wasn't
Rhoda,
social
no,
Rhoda,
media
no.
led.
Rhoda.
They
Yeah.
will hear. This thing is gist now. It's like grapevine gist.
Yeah, no, it
Everybody
wasn't. It wasn't even.
eh,
I understand what Ugochi is saying actually, but it
some
wasn't. It
people
wasn't.
won't
It wasn't
believe.
social media led alone. It was like food soldier led. I mean, you had
Mm.
boots on the ground, who were going to schools, campaigning to all their schools and campaigning and actually pushing them to apply. So it was
Do
a
you have any idea of the
concerted.
criteria?
No, I do have. I mean, I'll find out. I can share it with us later on the group. But I do have some of the
Okay.
I don't have the full picture of all of the criteria, but I have a sense of what they did.
It would be nice
Because
to
I
have
mean,
some of those teachers
I
on the
agree
Good Morning Education show. It would
totally,
be
and that's
nice.
one an effort that we
yes,
should make. I've
yes, yes.
Yeah, I've gone ahead to ask for some of them to know a little more about them, so I can share on that. At least those ones in the primary school section.
Okay, thank you. I think did you want to add before we flog this matter? And, I think
No, I think the people have spoken about it extensively. Let's move to either to the topic of the day or the next news.
no,
I think you guys have
let's
handled this very well.
yes, yeah. I think we should talk
Niger
about
government
yeah,
suspends boarding schools in rural
not
area.
yeah, not only that, but there is in one about the same thing. Not on school closure and missed persistent insecurity, all the same thing. And I think that's an area that we should hand over to Safety Chick, our safety advocate and safety expert. Over to you. Over to you.
Okay, so I believe that for this decision to have been made, it's because of the high rise of insecurity challenges and an inability or a limited capacity to actually put the necessary systems that would ensure the safety of those children. And I think it's safer that way. If you know that you can't rise up to the occasion if an emergency strikes, then it's best that you don't even put the children in harm's way. So I think that schools that are in areas that are facing high security challenges, by now, they need to begin to think of alternative methods that education can still continue, even though not in physical classes. We've been saying this over and over again. It's just that when people think of um, emergencies that can happen, they most likely just think of only the problem and do not go further to think of what can we do to solve it. And that now leads to us having gaps in the education system. So we've had a kidnap situation, a school system has been disrupted, and then it stays like that until school resumes whenever the school manager decides that it's safe enough to start. But it shouldn't be that way. It should be such that even when something has happened, you must still keep on thinking of the children, because at the end of the day, it is the children that are suffering. COVID-19 already made things worse because it has increased number of children who are out of school. Then if all these other ones that we know keep happening, we have still not put any structure in place to manage it, then it's a problem. It means that we're not learning from the mistakes. And the whole idea of accident investigation or safety incident investigation is basically to find out where are the loopholes? Where did we get things wrong? What can we put in place to ensure that a recurrence does not happen? Or even if it happens, we're still able to move on in a seamless manner. And I think that's where the disconnect is. Many times we've had safety incidents in schools and there is no recovery plan. And it's really important that schools begin to really think and put in place a crisis management plan. A crisis management plan rather. You don't keep on waiting for something to happen before you act. You should have your plans for different kind of scenarios, because anything can happen, really. Anything can happen. And then of course, when you are now working with those plans, you are able to be fluid, you're able to be flexible and adjust things as you go.
Thank you very much. All right. Two more headlines, and then we'll go straight to the conversation of the day. Um, I think Quares warns teachers against indecent dressing, and the second one that caught my attention.
So let's just take two. Are you sure we can take two? It's already almost half past the
Okay,
half
so
past.
yeah, so thank you, Adelola, for joining. Adelola, Gideon, Essien, and Shola Olumide, good morning. Um, Adelola says, I think older teachers may be wary of promises. They may have thought it would be political and there was no point. Absolutely. Okay,
No,
so
actually, that didn't happen. Because there was there was concerted effort with that sensitization and clarity on how open, which is why it was a private sector led. It was private sector driven in terms of criteria selection and campaigning and all of that.
all right, thank you so much for that, Rhoda. And we started yesterday a series talking about knowing what to know. Now we are moving on to the second part of that series, which is knowing what to do for parents. I believe there's a correlation between knowledge and doing or action. And today I want us to take a step further to deal with knowing what to do. There are many things parents do not know. There are many things parents do not know how and what to do. And I'd like us to start with Rhoda, being a veteran in that space. Rhoda, can you kick off the session today? What are those cardinal things that parents must know how to do? Um, and we can start with that.
Okay, Rotimi, yesterday I didn't follow yesterday because I was very, I was out, I just was, I couldn't connect yesterday and couldn't listen at the same time. So, but if it's, yeah, are you asking, is it supposed to be an open book to say, okay, what should parents do? What areas? I was, my brain is thinking school selection, helping, I have a couple of things in my head, so I'm not sure if I'm the best person to begin. So, but could you give me a brief background?
Okay, maybe I'll allow Titi to give a brief background. Yesterday, I also was not online, but the idea was to start with knowing what to know before we talk about knowing what to do. Still focused on parents. There are things that parents need to know. A lot of things that we sometimes complain about or we point fingers at parents. Find out that there's a knowledge gap, there's a knowledge problem with parents. However, we also need to talk about knowing what to do, which is a step further. And I'm sure Titi might want to add to that. Titi, if you don't mind.
Okay, yeah. So good morning. Yesterday we talked about how important it is for parents to be educated. And honestly, I'm happy that Adelola is on the show. Listening in. One of the things I talked about was also with regards to special needs, and I was saying that it's important that they know. Um, Once you're a parent, I think it's important you go for all these parenting seminars, webinars that talk about various things, including special needs. So that way you can identify if your child falls in any of them. And then once you've identified that, the question is now, what do you do? So I gave an example. Yes, there was someone I knew. Now, for a long time, all I just knew was that his child couldn't walk, and the child was 4. So one day I decided to ask, more questions. I said, "What exactly is it? What have you done? Have you gone for a diagnosis to know what it is?" And that's when he now said yes, that he had, and that the child had cerebral palsy. So I said, "So what next?" That was so. What are you going to do? Because for me, what I was trying to say is that it's not a death sentence. So what are you going to do? And I now went and did a lot of research, asked a lot of people questions. And then I went back to them and said, this and this and this is what you need to do. One, based on this, you need to get him into school. You need to get him to school. So
Yeah.
number one, can you research the schools in your area that provide, inclusive schooling for children with cerebral palsy? Two, do you have, a physiotherapist that will be giving him this? 3, occupational therapist. 4, speech therapist. Do you understand? This and this and this are the things that you need to do. But remember that it started with knowing, and then doing. And you don't feel 2-3 years they deprived their son because they did not know and they did not do. So now the child goes to school. Now, beyond that, I even anytime I see any webinar or something on cerebral palsy, I would now send to them. Say, oh, I think you should attend this, see if you can attend this. So it's that thing of you need to know, and then after that, it's not enough to know. You need to go out and do. And they came back and said, now their son is always so excited every morning. Before it was excited, you see sisters everybody just leave the house and leave him. And now it was not a case where he's also excited, getting ready for school. Do you understand? They could see that excitement and they could see the change. And they knew that they had done their child a disservice. So as parents, what should you be doing? So I say from that angle, I've thrown it open. What to you guys?
Okay, so Rhoda, are you ready
Okay,
for
so
us?
yes, I think I get the idea. I mean, it's quite open, but I know it's in the world of course, education. So there's a couple of things in different. There is a wide open area of things that parents should know to do after knowing after receiving or being after being blessed with knowledge. There are a couple of things that parents should do. So if it's school selection, there are a couple of things you should do. If it's my child has special needs or there's a concern, you should know what to do. If it's this school, the teachers in my school is not, I mean, the school is not going the direction I want them to go, you should know what to do and things like that. But in general, because those things have specific action points. But in general, as a parent and I'll use myself as an example, as a parent who is trying to work out the education plan for their children, one of the things, my biggest thumb rule is make sure that you're engaged, because that's something that uh, that is kind of like a blind spot for a lot of parents. We're very busy, we're very, and a lot of that. As a lot of us didn't come from a background where our parents were quite engaged in our schoolwork or in our education, in the nitty gritty that is required. And so for me, an action plan point for every parent as a part of the education plan is to be totally engaged. And what does engagement look like? You make sure that you make those visits, do parent teacher conferences, make sure you ask, constantly in touch with your children's education up until university. Look, university time is when you want to even know, who are their teachers. What sort you may have email exchanges with them. I just like to ask a little more. I hope my child, some kind of advice, things, advice. That's when you even start looking for. When I was a teenager, my mom, late teenager, almost entering uni, my mom brought us mentors. It's now I know that they're mentors or coaches, but I didn't even know what it was then. That what that concept was, but we had it growing up. So you're having a mentor for your child is very good. Especially in the world of education, and there's various kinds of mentors of people who you are thinking of their career path, and your child has maybe like similar career path that they want to get onto. You want to have that kind of mentor. And one other thing I think you should know a lot, just know. I mean, you've talked about knowing, but when you want to know about schools, you got to ask the right questions. Go and know what it is, what it is about the school, what's on their website, who is their staff, who's there. You will be shocked that parents don't know these things. Okay, I heard from somebody, oh, this is school my child should go to. Okay, fine, they go, they start. That's it. End of story. They don't know what the upcoming events are. They don't know what, a lot of parents are also lacking them. Those of us that taught actively in schools, we know how parents can be. When you have parent teacher conference, you see very few parents, and guess the parents that come, they're the parents of children that do very well. So as a parent, you have to try to make sure that you have that information. And then one of the key things for me that I'm trying to implement right now for my kids is to teach self-study and organizational skills. That will carry your child all through. Self-study and organizational skills. That's something that I'm working hard on with my kids right now, because that's something that they have to carry through the rest of their lives. It's going to affect their work life, their relationship life, And those key two things are the key things that characterize who we are now today. We're working right now, we have relationships, that we have to keep. So because when your kids are organized and they can stay focused, spending time to do things, then that means that it's going to go with them, and part of what you need to do when you're doing that is to, check up on them. Is that what are you doing? What's your goal for today? What's your goal for this week? What's your goal? Set goals, and teaching study skills is required, because that's a whole concept on its own. How does someone teach children study skills? But somebody mentioned something, and was Gideon. And I think I'm going to end there. Discipline. Discipline is very key. Discipline is not corporal punishment, by the way. Please, we need to get it right. It's not beating children. It's not beating children. It's true. It's not beating children. No, that's why I'm so anti it, because you don't get any necessary results from that. Discipline has a specific way of making sure that you actually help your child. Families should have code of conduct. What do we do as a family? Who are we as a family? Oh, in Audible family, we do not. Those things are key. You got to keep teaching it. So there's quite a range of things, but I think these are the ones that I would focus on.
Fantastic. Fee, welcome to the show. Do you have comments on what has been said so far? You should actually have one.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm glad to finally be in. It's been a tough battle with the internet. But yesterday we had quite a robust discussion on the first phase or the first level of this topic, which is the knowing, what parents should know. And taking it further today into the doing, there are quite a number, like one of the things that stood out yesterday is that parents need to continually update themselves. They need to really put themselves in the space of going after knowledge. So when issues, for instance, the last point that Rhoda made about discipline, how do you discipline your child? What angle do you come for each child? What works for each child? And in this slide, I will talk about parents knowing the bent of their child, knowing what are the things that this child is well suited for, so that when you want to take action, when for instance you want to help them, or you want to pick extracurricular activities with them, I'm going in line with what this child is either naturally suited for or what they are interested in. So for us to do the action, for us to get into the space of actually doing and giving our children, or giving the children a solid foundation to build on, to bounce off on, then we can't divorce it from knowledge. We can't divorce it from taking informed decisions. And so I would say that for these actions, before you even know that, oh, this child requires special, maybe a therapist, maybe a special teacher, there is a need to know, and then we can go on from there to take the right actions, to take the right steps, and have a rewarding and fruitful parenting experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Which really brings me to the next question. So much about knowing, so much about doing. So, but then how do parents get guided? Who is responsible for nurturing parents to this point of knowledge or to the point of doing? Because I think that we might be having a modeling deficit where not all parents have the chance or the opportunity to see the right thing being modeled. In some cases, a little bit of what they have an idea of, they try to copy and paste in their own families. And sometimes it doesn't work out as expected, or they get the results, but certain things also get affected in the process. So I'm going to start with Safety Chick, then move to Titi on that. So Safety Chick, what do you think about that?
Okay, so I think that we need to have more of our platforms mentioning talking about these things. And the reason is people say that many parents have never had to go through any training whatsoever. They basically parent on the fly based on intuition or what they have seen other people do, not necessarily because whatever it is they are doing is best practice. And that's because maybe nobody went to a school of parenting. But you see, that's where we've got to be really conscious and sensitive and look out for these things by ourselves. Now, there's a place for looking out for it by ourselves, that you being the one going the extra mile to get all the necessary information so you can be an effective parent. But I also feel that for it to be more effective, we need to get other societal agents on board. So that would mean organizations who individuals and organizations who train on parenting should also begin to step out of their own comfort zones and use all media available. Use traditional media, use social media, use religious associations, places of worship. Because the truth is, sometimes some people do not even realize they need training on this thing. They think, is it not what our parents were doing? They just feel like maybe they were born with the gene of parenting, right? So, and it doesn't always work that way. There are things that maybe worked many years ago, but it's not working today because of the current realities that we have. So, which means we've got to keep upgrading our knowledge on parenting, just the way we keep upgrading on other skills. I find that we upgrade in other skills, but we do not necessarily upgrade in our parenting skills, and that's not good enough. So individuals and organizations that train on parenting need to come in here. And then, of course, our places of worship must also factor in this part. I've seen places of worship that invite this parenting should I say trainers or facilitators to come and have sessions with their parent. And I'm saying parent, I'm not saying mother, because we need to also stop the part where every time any parenting topic comes up, it's only mothers that are being trained. Did they born? Was the child born in isolation, for Christ's sake? It took two people. So I believe that
COVID
when we talk about
protocols.
parenting, we should say that, say that again.
I said COVID protocols.
so it's very important that both parties are, and then of course our media, the kind of songs we are putting out there, the kind of movies we are putting out there should normalize parents taking learning through counseling sessions or through training sessions. And it shouldn't always be that it's only when something bad happens that some people go for counseling, because that's also another reason why people see those kinds of things as negative. Or maybe you are a bad parent, that's why you require training. No, even if you are good, you want to be great, you want to be better, it doesn't make you bad. So I think that when we begin to incorporate these things into normal fabric of society, it's seen as normal that this is also something that we should do. And then of course I've also attended functions in schools where, aside the normal the other things that maybe they were being taught, they also brought maybe an outsider to come and teach the parents who attended the meeting, the teachers who attended the meeting, on other practical parenting tips and hacks. So if we integrate this thing across the different angles of society, you would see that to some extent we're helping those who don't even think they need it to become more aware.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Titi.
Okay. When I look at it, every parent needs to decide to be an intentional parent. I think that's where it starts. You need to look at what were the gaps where you feel that your own parents could have done better, and say, where do I need to, get the education on how to do it a bit differently. So if my parents are not involved, what are the specific things I need to do so that I'll have a very clear action step. I remember listening to my husband, and my husband said that he used to be amazed that his father never attended a lot of things, and he made up his mind. He made up his mind that he would do differently. And he then had an action step on what specifically he wanted to do differently. So that's why I said a lot of these things starts with this mindset of the parents wanting to be very intentional, wanting to say, what were the good things from my upbringing? What were the things I feel we could do better? We all know how the flog is. They'll flog you from morning to night, and then you will still decide to come and do the same thing. So you look at some of the things in your child and say, what were the things that I would have wanted to do better? And what are those specific things so that I will do better? And then let me start doing it. So for me, it starts with that thing of being an intentional parent. It starts with that thing of having an action step. I'm passionate about also being educated. What should I do? How who are the people I can learn from and have specific action steps on what to do, so that I bring up my child to be the best, not to be the doctor and engineer and lawyer that my own parents trained us to be, but to look at people's strengths, identify it, try to nurture it, give them various experiences. So that's where I come from to say what are the specific things I want to achieve as an intentional parent? Where can I learn from? And what are the action steps that would then come out of that? I hope I've spoken without being.
Thank you so much.
Rotimi, sorry to jump in. To be honest, as I was listening to everybody, it just occurred to me how, to be brutally honest, we have a lot of people who don't even know that their character is really bad as parents. And there's just way too many parents exhibiting those behaviors that you ask yourself, they don't even know there's anything wrong with what they're doing. I mean, we know what happens in big parent forums, parent and teacher forums, and major disagreements, insults raining after each other, throwing of jabs, trolling. Parents are not, some parents, there are parents who are not even behaving well in the presence of their children, so they didn't even know. It's to them they're doing the right thing. And so in the world of trying to get them educated, they're telling you don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah, what you're saying is wrong. When you bring up the way that you should get a child to have a right behavior, so to speak, they will tell you it's wrong. That if you hear them arguing about beating, pro beating here, you think that I don't understand. How is it that you're not even trying to make sense of what we're saying? You see, some parents abuse their own children sexually. Some parents use their children for to make money. Some parents, all kinds of things. They're saying things you see. There's a particular famous young actor who I'm so pissed off with her mom for allowing her to get into that lifestyle that she has now. So these things are just they just abound. And will parents really know that they need the education themselves? Do they really know? But for a larger population, or for assuming that people should know, I agree with everybody in saying, get to most churches are doing it now. There are also organizations like Akiropo's one, School of Parenting. There are a lot of parent coaches. They're out there and they're willing every time to tell you exactly how and what to do. One thing that I know that is a key thing for us, because at the end of the day, when we speak about education, we talk about building competencies and skills. But then we do know that if you like start from today to the kingdom come, to have competency, to have the capacity to do things, if your character is not in check, I'm sorry for you, you're not likely going to thrive in that in your area of business, because you must, no matter what you do, you must relate with others. And there's something called character count, and this is something that we should help parents know that they can read about parenting. I read about parenting every time. I have books, that I constantly I'm trying to say, no, learn more, because I don't think I'm as where I'm supposed to be. But as a parent, just having that default to say, I can be better, I can do better. Something called the six pillars of character. There's character counts. The books are around there. At the end of the day, character is the key thing that we want parents to action on. Are you trustworthy? Are you being a trustworthy person? Are you building someone who's respectful? Are you building somebody who's responsible? Are you building a child that not understands what fairness is? Are you being a child that's caring for themselves and for their environment and for their community? Are you building somebody who is a citizen? Because sometimes when people say I'm patriotic, being patriotic doesn't mean you will not speak about things that you don't like about your country or about your community. Sometimes the most patriotic people are the ones who stand up for it, stand up against all kinds of injustices. So these are the kinds of human beings. When we build people of character, then I think a lot of things will fall in place eventually.
That's a point for everyone, actually. We need to read about parenting. And what you just said has just re-emphasized the fact that a lot of times we might be undoing what the school is working on or creating or building on just by just this freestyle character. And I really want to find out from us. So shouting or anger issues, what's the damaging effect that that can actually have on children, especially not necessarily directed to children, but getting children to witness such feats. What's the impact of that?
Confidence, no risk taker. Lots of confidence and somebody who doesn't take risks. I'll pick those two big ones because I know the direct effect of it.
Wow.
Yeah, another fallout of that is actually raising children who also have anger issues because they
Yeah.
believe that when their parents lash out at them like that, they see that as the way to handle those issues when they
Mm-hmm.
come up. So that's what they're
Mm-hmm.
modeling to them. And as the children grow up, you see them in schools becoming the ones that shout, that scream, that take jabs at other children. They just cannot control their anger. They just, apart from them not being able to control, they don't know any better. So that's also one of the effects of that yelling, shouting, screaming at children.
So so let me play devil's advocate here. So what now happens to a parent that has um, experienced this or probably have found themselves in a scenario where this is the reality? How can they rewrite that wrong in their children?
Do you mean how can they rewrite it if they've already, like, if they've been the shouter and the
Yeah,
yeller
if, yeah, kind of, yeah.
and the beater? I mean, it's just first of all recognizing the recognizing that that's what you've been doing. There's a I think Safety Chick has said there's this power in knowing your errors. There's power in it because once you have known it and you've accepted it, is the first step to the journey of correcting it. And then you become it because you now put yourself in a place where you are mindful whenever you get to that level of doing it. So just accepting that you're doing something wrong is the very first step because where it's difficult. That's where it's difficult. But immediately you get to that point, you've started your journey. And then the next step is just actually looking for out actively by reading and searching for someone who's going to be your accountability partner, and then looking for those particular things you do. There's physical things, you can even go around your whole room and say, I will not shout, I will not yell, I will not put it around your screen. Let it be your screen saver. The same things you can do actively to not do those things. And then you maybe the one for me is getting your children's voice, actually having a conversation with them. How does this make you feel? When you know how much your child is hurting, I think it's going to be helpful because you are first in the stage of I'm doing something wrong, but you have to be there first before you take the next steps.
Wow, that's powerful. Titi, I think Titi wanted to say something. I would like to hear Titi say something.
I think Rhoda has said in terms of the shouting. I remember one day I sat down with my children and said, mommy doesn't want to yell. They say, ah. So they are my reminders. I said, but mommy, you said, I'm like, okay, I'm coming down, but please, I told you guys to do this thing. Why haven't you done it? That's why you're going to make me want to yell. So even just having your children also be your check and your balance. And the truth is that it doesn't really help anything. It's the same way when our parents were yelling at us. You know how it is. You just blank out. Just blank out, wait for them to finish. Then tune back in. So it's not really. It doesn't achieve much. Like we've said. I think for me, my last word is first have make that decision that you want to be a better parent. The second thing is go and learn how to be a better parent. Give yourself little goals and say, okay, don't plan to do everything. My first goal is what I want to be more involved. So what are the action steps to do that? Okay, every parenting thing I put it in my own. I put it in my diary. and know that this is it. I put them as first. So once I have this meeting and they already there's this school event, I'm going to tell people that I can't make it. I already have. So it's just to have goals and then little baby steps, day in day out. We'll make those changes. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. So let's say um, there's so much to say about this, but really very powerful statements and resolutions here. Um, Parents need fixing first from the bad parenting they got. That's what Gideon Essen is saying. I would like to have parting shots from uh, analysts. So I'm going to start with Safety Check. I'm going to go to P and then Rhoda. So
Okay.
Safety Check over to you.
So I would say that yes, parents need to be really, really intentional, be willing to learn. And don't think that learning only happens when you are bad at something. Even when you are good,
Which are you there?
I think
Uh,
her internet is going in and out.
okay, so let's have P.
Okay, so imparting this morning, I'll say two things. One, it's essential for parents to not parent from pain, to not parent from the things that had happened to them, and then they're now, without even sometimes realizing it, they're reflecting that in their own parenting. So they've been hit, they've been they shout and yell because they were shouted and yelled at. They don't know any better. But it's important to sit down and look at ourselves as an individual. What were those experiences I had that were pain points for me and that are likely being reflected in me now as a parent? So one, a parent should not parent from pain. And secondly, I would say that for people, there's a need for us to standardize parenting training, so we don't have all sorts of everybody coming up and saying, oh, I can do parenting training for you, I can do, and then we're taking it from our point of belief, we're taking it from our point of our opinion, from religion, from all of those things. There's a need to standardize it so that we can say that there is actual, then it could be many people teaching it, but then it is standardized, and we know we're helping parents to face the realities in parenting, to be able to have those difficult conversations with the children, that when issues like teen pregnancy occurs, how do you deal with it? We're not just coming up and saying, oh, foolishness is in the heart of a child and it is the rod of correction that chases it out. We're not propagating those kind of things, but we're actually facing the real issues and helping parents to navigate them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, Rhoda.
Um, so I think it was Barbara Johnson that said, to be in your children's memories tomorrow, you have to be in their lives today. So being present, being a present parent, a lot of people aren't. Let's just be honest. And being present requires you to know a lot about your children, and knowing that is just being in their faces, knowing what their activities are, what their functions are, how they feel about those activities. Basically, your children being able to come to you to talk to you, because you see, we cannot be parent. I mean, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. We all have our excesses. But when I've been hearing, don't yell, don't yell, but honestly, I yell still. And every day I work on it. Every day I tell myself, as I'm doing it, I tell myself, so this is bad, and I apologize to my kids immediately. And so I don't waste time. That's one of the things I do. I apologize so they know that it is wrong. it is wrong to do it, even when I get to that point, you know. And then, yeah, I mean, really the best kind of parent you can be is to lead by example. At the end of the day, you need to lead by example, which is why I particularly would apologize for the things I know I have done immediately that I know is wrong, albeit that they've done something that I feel is warranting me to yell or shout. It doesn't make it right. So I apologize for it, and I still face the issue at hand, and I deal with it, and we have a conversation about it, and we have make a plan around it. Well, there's something I would just like to read out. It says, if your child feels loved, they feel safe. If your child feels loved, they can open up to you. If your child feels loved, they will be courageous in life because they know they have a cushion to fall back on. If there's one big gift we can give our children, is to know they are truly loved no matter what. And this is something I learned so much from my husband. He would tell me, his children, I love you. You have your space with me. You have your home with me. No matter what it is, no matter how bad it is, know that you can always come to me and say anything you want to say in this universe to me. And that's what counts. Your child should feel loved.
Thank you so much, Rhoda. If you don't mind, that would be the end way to draw the curtains. Please just take the words slowly as we bring this show to a close.
Oh, you mean the quote? Okay.
Yes.
It's from Carolina King, and I keep it all the time to remind myself. Like I said, there's certain things I put as my wallpaper. So this is something that is one of the things that guide me. It says, if your child feels loved, they feel safe. If your child feels loved, they can open up to you. If your child feels loved, they will be courageous in life because they know they have a cushion to fall back on. If there's one big gift we can give our children, is to know they are truly loved no matter what.
Thank you so much. And there you've got it. If there's one true gift that you and I can give our children, is that they feel love. They know that they feel love. Please ensure that this is one of the major things that you do. Now you know what to know, and now we're moving on to things that you should do. And that's all we will be able to take today, and we will be back tomorrow, the first day of April. And no April Fool's Day on the
Yay!
Good Morning Education
First
Show.
quarter over.
Uh,
Hey.
First quarter over. And you know the interesting thing? The interesting thing is that we started the show July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. We will be 10 months on
Woo!
Tuesday. We will be 10 months on
Woo!
Tuesday. So
We must celebrate the
Awesome.
first year with a live
yeah.
session with all of us present in the same room.
Okay, we should not close that. That makes
Tell you.
sense. All right. So thank you so much, guys. Of course, you know how we do it. We will not end the show without your favorite words. And your favorite ladies are going to share those favorite words. So, ladies, over to you.
It's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show.
Great.
Fantastic. Have a great day. Have a great morning. Have a great week.
Bye, everyone.
God bless you. Bye.
Yay!